imagine if the sun moved its position and went around the planets? It would be chaotic. So same thing with mothers. If I can just remind moms that your place is where the sun in the center, so that you can allow, when you own that power, you allow the planets to go around.
It's Tiffany Lorraine Galloway, certified high performance coach with another episode of the Resilient Mother podcast. Today with me, I have Shilpi. Thank you so much for being here. I am excited from the little chat we've already had before we started. Listen up today. We've got some great pearls of wisdom here as we talk about Mothermorphosis, all the different stages and development of the mother and the process of embracing it. Please tell us more about you and this development of this idea and your heart for mothers.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Tiffany, for the beautiful introduction and for inviting me on this podcast. I just feel really, really honored to be able to serve mothers in a way that I can. And so here I am, just talking to all the mothers that are listening, that what an amazing position we have. How the universe has placed us so that we not only have an effect on the ancestors that have gone by, but also on the next generation. As as children come through us, we can create such an impact, such a ripple effect, as long as we know how powerful we are. But most of the time, society just, we grow up with the conditioning, the societal influences, and all of the ancestral baggage and the trauma that we carry. And also forgetting who we were meant to be. So as an individual, we've forgotten that. But when kids come along, it's a whole another level of, awakening. Or, for example, when you open certain files and folders in your computer and you haven't looked at it for a long time, it is overwhelming. Same like that when children come, it's like they awaken parts of us that we didn't want to look at. And if we are not aware, if we are not prepared, it just adds to so much of chaos and overwhelm that we just start reacting. But motherhood is not a journey of reactions. It is a journey where we as moms awaken. And I'll use this metaphor of the metaphor is the sun and the planets going around. Can you imagine if the sun moved its position and went around the planets? It would be chaotic. So same thing with mothers. If I can just remind moms that your place is where the sun in the center, so that you can allow, when you own that power, you allow the planets to go around. If the sun felt not comfortable being the sun, shining brightly, it shied away. It felt insecure. It felt not important. It felt inferior. Can you imagine what would happen to the planets? They couldn't feel comfortable. They wouldn't feel comfortable going around on their orbits around the sun. So as mothers, if we can own our power and stay in the center, we would allow our children, our families to revolve around us. And that's the best way for everyone to be. Because as moms, we are the heart of the home, as I call it. But most of the time, as people, we know heart is so important. We take care of our heart. If there's a problem, we know we have to be rushed to the emergency room. But the heart of the home, most of the time, takes the back seat. As soon as children arrive, she's won by her own, the cultural conditioning, the societal conditioning. She takes a back seat, but also because the family is not aware, they all the attention goes to the baby. The mother is always, in the shadows. And that's where the shift from, from being the sun into being in the shadows happens. And so, if I can remind you, moms, to come back to your central place, to come back to to being the heart, the most important organ in the body, your children will have no problem whatsoever finding their positions in life. Oh, you're muted, Tiffany.
That'll be because they embrace their inner light and they have that example
Yes,
of how to do so that they can shine in the
exactly.
roles
And
that.
then, because we communicate with our actions and our energy more than we ever communicate with our words. So
Mm,
most of the time we are trying to read them books, we are trying to take them to the park, we are trying to have the best play date, best party, and all of that is great. But if there is a mismatch between the activities that are happening and what the moms are carrying in their heart, in their energy field, children are like animals. They'll pick it up and
mhm,
they'll embody the energy.
mhm.
So, so then later on, what happens? The disconnect that has happened in the childhood, they're going to play it out. The universe has this way of teaching us what we took on that was not ours.
Yeah.
And do we want that for our children to go through experience to unlearn certain things? As
Mm,
a mom, no mom wants that.
yeah.
But as long as we are not aware, as long as we are not conscious, we do that.
Yeah. And that's where we have to do the work first so that we
Exactly.
understand when they're off and they're not in alignment with who they're meant to be when they're not reaching their full potential. But ultimately, they also have agency. So they've got to see you choosing it so that they'll want
Yes.
to choose it for themselves. But if they're never exposed to it, how
Yeah.
are they going to know it's even there or that it's even possible?
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like as mothers, we are so critical of ourselves.
Mm,
We have so much love for our children, for our families. But when it comes to us, we are very judgmental. We
mm,
have such high standards for ourselves. And for little things, we can berate ourselves.
mm,
We do that, and then there are voices in our head that that are not ours, with what we learned or what we heard as we were growing up. The same things repeat in our head.
yeah.
If it was a very compassionate and kind voice, then there's a possibility that we are kinder to ourselves. But still, the kindest of moms is tough on herself.
Yeah.
So I feel as coaches, you and I, and many people who are working with moms, our job is to just make sure that moms realize what an enormous responsibility it is to raise kids, to bring forth children.
Mhm.
And when we are not aware, what starts to happen is we start to orientate from fear
Yeah.
rather than love.
Yeah.
Motherhood is all about enjoying that time with children, just letting it be filled with love.
Yeah.
But if that doesn't happen for all the reasons that we've already spoken about, then we orientate from fear. And fear colors everything. It has a way of seeping through everything and
Mhm.
just bringing down the vibration and transferring, to every aspect of our lives. So even if we don't want, with best of intentions, we're communicating with our children. For example, they have exams or their routine. If there's fear, we become very controlling,
Mm,
even without realizing. And kids can feel that, and they
yeah.
can't take it because
Mm-mm.
it doesn't feel good in their bodies. But at the same time, if we when we start becoming aware, we start putting the oxygen mask on ourselves, taking care of ourselves, then we realize that, okay, maybe we can we can allow the kids to experience certain things. I'm not saying let them put their hands in the fire and experience that.
Right.
That's not what I mean. But if they fall down, can we give them a moment to pick themselves up
Yeah.
without reacting? Oh my God, did you fall down and that must be hurting? And we start making a fuss instead of that. If you can be calm, the child has fallen down, you be there for the child. Help them up if need be and listen to the child. The child is going to look at you for your reaction. What's mother feeling or thinking, or how is she reacting or responding? And if you are calm and say, "Oh, you fell down. Did that hurt you? Do you need bandage or whatever?" The child thinks it's not such a bad thing. It's manageable. I can deal with it.
And it's so important to give those opportunities for those moments of self-regulation in a way. Because if you freak out, of course they're going to feed off of that. They're going to freak out too. So I love the idea of calm. But, they also need to learn to trust themselves. They need to learn to know they can solve problems, that they can make choices. And if we coddle, for lack of a better word, if we coddle them too much, we're not teaching them how to develop as an individual, and they will not be resilient. And we kind of have some of a generation that feels a bit entitled. They've been given a little too much. They are very spoiled by the technology that we have, and not really even living in the reality, in some cases, of what is going to be expected of them as they become adults. And so it's so important to realize, even at a young age, to start giving them opportunities to make their own choices and to self-regulate and to trust their inner light, because they come into the world with it. That's why we're so attracted to these little babies, because they're just full of light and genius and genuineness. And then if we're not careful as moms, we can get in the way of what they're meant to be and who they're meant to be. So what you're talking about resonates so much with me, especially because I look at how I raised my oldest versus how I'm raising my youngest. And there's a huge age gap there. And with my youngest, I really focused on being calm more. And as you were talking about that, I just thought of all the things I was doing. I was doing breath work. I was doing tapping. I was reading personal development, self-compassion, all these things, right? Well, he now has an emotional intelligence at age 4 that is beyond his years, because I was intentionally aware of how much my emotions affected him, how much my words affected him, and different things. Now, am I perfect? Did I get it all right all the time? No, but there was enough intention and love that was there that I can see how much impact that made. And then that same intention has spread to the older kids too. The way I talk is different. I'm quicker to apologize. I'm quicker to calm down most of the time. So, teenagers are different. I will say I'm still navigating that one. But overall, the house is better when I'm calm, when I am centered, as you were talking about.
Yes. So you know what it feels like to be the sun and allow the planets to orbit around you, right? You've got the taste of it, and you know how important that is, right? And I think you touched a very important aspect when you said we need to give them an opportunity to express themselves, to express their light, their gift. We all come with certain gifts inherent in us. It's like the seed is there. It's just a time when it blossoms. And we as parents, as mothers, we are like the gardeners. We always, when it comes to gardening, there are certain plants that need shade, that there are certain ones that need more sun. And as a gardener, you know which one goes where. And you tend to it accordingly. You don't overwater something that doesn't need.
Yeah.
But when a gardener is not aware, and they are given a plot of land, and okay, the most exotic plants are growing there, and they have no idea. Can you imagine? That's what happens with the best intention. The gardener has the best intention, but is not aware how much, what needs to be given to each plant. So when we as mothers start, for that gardener, for example, if he or she really wants the garden beautiful and they don't know, If they read up, they learned something about it, and they took pride in what was happening through them for the garden. The garden would be a beautiful place. Each flower will blossom in its time. The gardener wouldn't rush, wouldn't be digging up soils thinking, is the seed sprouting or not sprouting? Allow the time, allow whatever was necessary. And when as mothers, we become that empowered self, we learn, we nurture ourselves. And when we nurture ourselves, each of us, each mom is, given that inner wisdom, the mother wisdom. We are born with it.
Yeah.
If you're a woman, you have that instinct, mother instinct. You know what your child needs.
Mm-hmm.
Even things that doctors don't tell you, mothers will know.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just a matter of confirmation. We go to the doctor and the doctor says something. If it doesn't resonate, the mother's instinct will keep on harping, keep on, knocking at the,
Yeah.
doors inside to do something. For example, it happened with me, and it happens with all moms. Whether we choose to listen or we don't listen, or we are, kind of brainwashed not to listen. So when my firstborn came along, they took her away the second day. They said, okay, her white blood count is not going up, and they put her in the NICU. She wasn't, I hadn't started breastfeeding her and all of that. So I was like, it's too early to, and they said she's premature, but I know they had miscalculated the gestation period. She was fine. I would go and see the baby in the NICU. They kept her for 10 days, and then they started saying, oh, maybe we need to do bone marrow and this and that. I'm like, no, because in my heart, I knew she was fine. She just needed to be with me.
Mm-hmm.
So finally, I said, you know what? I need my baby back. You will not touch my baby. Let me think about this bone marrow. The moment I heard bone marrow, I was like, but why?
Yeah.
To me, it felt like more of an experiment than anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I brought the baby back home, and I was supposed to take her to the doctor. They wanted to, get some blood and stuff like that. They called us in the morning. Those people could not figure out where to get the blood from the baby. And later on, they said, oh, generally afternoons are better because as the day wears out, the blood flow is better with the babies. And I was like, shouldn't you know that and give me an appointment accordingly?
Yeah.
So I never went back. And there's no problem with my baby. She's 12 now. Why the bone marrow?
Yeah.
So as a mother, and my husband was like, well, the doctors know better and you should allow them to, we had a baby. I had just delivered the baby. I don't have my gift with me. I've come home empty-handed. My baby's at home. And my husband's like, we need to listen to the doctor. I said, no, I'm crying. I was a hot mess, but I said, no, that's not happening. My baby's not giving bone marrow and stuff like that. I just want the baby back, and then I'll decide. And that was my instinct, and I'm sure a lot of moms can relate to it at some point or the other.
Yeah.
Something has happened, and they know exactly what it is. They may not have a confirmation, but in their heart they know. And if we can get most of the moms to connect with that inner wisdom, because the magazines, the social media, today you just put in a topic and you have 100 results, and you can keep reading and can't go down that maze and lose yourself, lose your own sanity, and then you have no idea what is right, what's not right.
Yeah.
If we can, move that away and get the moms to connect with their own inner wisdom, the mom wisdom, I feel the babies will be taken so much, they'll be cared for in such a beautiful way.
Absolutely. And it makes me think of a couple instances with my little babies that I wish I had voiced more. I had partners who didn't share in my feelings, and that's difficult. So I'm glad that you had a husband who was supportive of trusting that you could be the mother. And I think that's an important thing we haven't really talked about on here, is just like, you have the ability to speak up for your child, even when you have someone questioning it, because you're their mother for a reason. And, they chose you and they want you to protect them. And then I think sometimes moms can feel bad when they did feel like they should have spoken up and they didn't, and there were consequences. And then to those mothers who get out of relationships that don't allow them to be their authentic self as a mom, that don't let them nurture their children in the way that they need to. It is an important role. Motherhood is sacred. And I love the way that you talk about it, because you talk about it with such a respect and honor for women to really step into this role fully and understand just how powerful they really are.
Yeah. Thank you for just sharing that last bit of piece where you said that sometimes we know, but we can't speak up.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, I know moms carry that guilt to their grave because it's unresolved. We feel, even though we've done whatever we could, for example, some moms step out of the relationship or they do certain things that they felt that was in their power. Because as moms, we want to do the best for our children with whatever tools we have.
Yeah.
We may not have all the tools. So, to those moms that feel like I should have done something, but I didn't, and you live under that guilt, I want you to know that there are ways of resolving that guilt. You need to know that you did the best you could with the resources you had. But now, if you feel, oh, I could have, or for example, this is a little silly example, which all moms, we all lose our cool in moments of crisis. We've
Yeah.
all done that, been there, done that. And then we cry ourselves to sleep thinking, oh my God, I have, scarred my child for life
Right.
and they will need therapy forever. If any of you feel like that, remember, if you work on that episode that happened, if you work on the guilt, just to, free yourself of it, if you can love yourself unconditionally and forgive yourself, energetically, when you free yourself, that incident, the effect of that incident in your children is erased or it's minimized. It clears up. So you don't have to think, oh my God, I blundered and it's the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. It's your intention, it's your love that counts.
And I love how you talked about that, because earlier when you were talking about fear and love, they can't exist in the same place. And that's why forgiveness is so powerful, because it allows the release of the negative to let room for the positive to come back in. And it's so comforting to hear that that has an effect on the kids and that it resolves it, because that makes so much sense, because then you're not carrying it. They're not sensitive to it. What other ways do you help moms to come to that center, like you were just describing? What are some other tools or strategies?
I do a lot of meditations and I do guided meditation. I call them journeys. I take moms or anybody on journeys. And what happens is while I'm doing that, one is my voice. I'm sure you've heard of light language. Now, I don't sing. Some people sing. They're gifted with certain vocal abilities to sing in a certain tones, and that's very like sound bath. It is very healing. It clears up energy. Some of us, I do a lot of energy work. I do Reiki and sacred activations and mindset work. But over the time, what I've realized is my voice. My voice itself is a light language. It carries certain frequencies. So when I'm taking people through journeys, I do a lot of chakra work. So as I'm talking, the energy in my voice starts clearing up stuff. It starts aligning energy centers in people's bodies.
Wow.
And I take them to certain specific places where they have felt guilty or resentful. And I bring up those because all of the emotions are just energies. I bring up those stagnant energies, and it just gets released
Mm.
as we are going through a journey. So when the moms or anyone comes out of the journey, you feel expanded because you've let go of stuff that was not needed. It was just taking up space and keeping you, constricted. So once that goes away, you feel expanded. And for people who are more left brain, who like to understand, then I do mindset work so that we take the mind along with us. Because energy work, it's easy. You don't understand what's happening, but something's happened and you feel
Yeah.
good. And to and when, because if mind is not, playing along, it'll bring all sorts of, questions to the play, and that can stop the progress. So what I do is I just bring the mind, explain stuff, get the mind to come along with us. And so mind is very happy because mind or ego feels happy, feels important, and then it wants to help us.
Yeah.
And so the inner child work is another one, very important, because all of us have inner children that are hungry for love. They're waiting to be seen and heard and acknowledged. When they get acknowledged, it's light bulb moment. It can really shift something so deeply in moms that their nervous system gets aligned. It's no longer like, conflicted and fragmented and in pieces. So when they feel whole, they emit that energy, that wholesome energy,
Mm.
all around. And then they don't feel not enough. Because most of us feel, I'm not enough, I'm not good enough. Because we're always trying to measure up to something. The metaphor of apples comparing themselves to mangoes or oranges. It's not possible, but we do that.
Yeah.
We moms do that. We have our children who chose us. See, that's another thing that I really want to tell moms. We are only the passage through which children come. We don't choose them. Children choose us for certain reasons. They have certain, contracts to finish. They have certain lessons to learn, and which is only possible through certain souls, for example, certain moms or certain families. So they choose us, and they have their own soul journeys. We are just the doorway. We bring them in, and the best way not to hinder their progress is to just love them and nurture them. But if we have pieces and parts in us that are feeling neglected, unacknowledged, we will never do justice to our children.
Yeah, because we'll be triggered by our own resolved trauma. And I noticed that with one of my daughters. She tends to trust me with all of her anger, which I now realize is because I'm the safe space. I'm the one that can handle it. I'm the one who will still love her even when, I can take it, I guess is the way to put it. And that's a little different, being the role of mother is being the center and being able to still be the light no matter what kind of comes your way. But as you were talking, I was thinking about, a friend of mine was talking about, we always talk about balance, like mom's trying to balance everything. That kind of seems impossible. And so someone pointed out it should be harmony. And as you were talking about energy and letting things go and letting the right things align, and I love frequencies. There's music that's definitely healing and beta waves. I like to listen to that stuff. And as you were saying that, I was thinking about how we kind of each come into this world with our own song.
Yeah.
And that song has wonderful, beautiful value. And it isn't like anybody else's. We are our own song. And so the work that you do brings us back to the original melody that we were meant to play. And life will put other notes in there and cause dissonance and maybe cause too much volume here or make you be too soft here, just all these things. And if we can think about ourselves that way, the work, the inner work, the energy work, these things that we're talking about are that ability to get back in tune with the harmony that's meant for you. And what I also like about the analogy of harmony is maybe the soprano's a little louder at times. Maybe the bass needs to be louder at times, but a mom knows how, when she's in tune, to what part needs to the attention where, but it still stays in harmony with the work that she does when she knows herself. And then when you're aware of that, when the child comes into the world with their own song, you know how to honor their song. You know how to help them flourish with it, to not let things take it on that are not theirs to take on, as you were talking about. And it can be beautiful when someone really gets there. I think it's when that light sparks back in their eye, or you can see that kid really thriving or really enjoying what they're doing and just full of life and happy. And we can all have that. We can all keep that as we go heal our inner child, as you were talking about as well. And that's what a resilient mother is, in my mind, is this force of nature that's being a light, that's raising the next generation up and holding them up to the potential of everything that they're meant to be, understanding that one person can make a difference. And it might be your child, and you might be, as the mother, we often are, we have a lot of impact on our children as well.
And when we think of impact, we think we have to make impact at large. But we forget that charity begins at home.
Yep.
It's not important what your neighborhood is doing, as long as your lot is clean, spick and span and tidy. Okay, there might be others, trashing the place. But what is it that you want? What is it that you want for your child? You cannot expect the neighbors to keep it neat and clean for your child. But if that's what I want for my child, I'll keep my space clean. Because I want my child to see this is what it feels like to be in a neat and clean space.
Absolutely.
And we are sowing the seed in their heart. And who knows where our children or how they will impact as they, grow up, where they go, where they live, who they are with. We don't know that. We can just spark that fire, just light that flame and let it grow. Last but not the least, I want to share this quote because that is something that I felt propelled my desire to put forth my vision. I've been a teacher all my life. And then when I had my own children, I felt it was time to change gears. I didn't want to go and, teach at school and have my children in daycare. But being a stay-at-home mom brought up tons of stuff for me.
Yeah.
And then I said, well, and I used to be I didn't have children when I worked with kids. And people thought I had children because I was so good with kids. I was almost like child whisperer. And they would always say, we can't believe you don't have children. But when I had my own kids, it was a whole different picture. I said, what happened to me? I could just, whisper anything to child and they would do whatever whatever others couldn't get them to do. And here I have my children and I have no idea what to do. And so I said, I'm sure there are other moms that feel the same way, and I need to help moms now. And it was like 6 years, and it was just incubating. And then I saw this quote from Rumi or Khalil Gibran. And it said, the house is always dark until the mother awakens. That hit me. It just hit me in the right place. And I said, oh man. So that's when I started talking about awakened motherhood. And today, just before we started talking, Awakened Motherhood Project just came through. And I said, man, that sounds really good. Because Mothermorphosis is a process, a journey through which you become the sun of your galaxy, of your solar system. You move into that central place. Mothermorphosis is just a journey.
Wow. I love that so much. And I've enjoyed this conversation so much. Thank you, audience, for being here. If people want to work with you and do this work and be a part of what you do, where can they find you?
Well, one is they can go to Mothermorphosis. I'm on the school platform, but I can send you the links that you can attach.
Yeah, they'll be
And
here.
I do one-on-one, I do group work, and I do a lot of little single clearings, which moms can just, as and when they have time, they can pick it up and listen to it. And I always encourage moms not to drop everything and be present when I'm doing stuff. I tell them just plug in, listen to my voice, and go about your work. If you don't have the time, it will shift stuff.
Yeah,
So,
it's doable. It's possible.
yeah, it's doable once you clear out the sludge, you'll have space to sit down and close your eyes and meditate. But until that happens, do what you can.
Yeah.
But know that you need to survive if you want to take care of those little beings.
Yes.
Depending on you.
Absolutely. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, audience, for being here. And we'll have more on the subject for you of resilient empowerment. Please take these tips and ideas and metaphors and apply them into your life and know that you can show up and be the mother that you want to be, even a resilient mother. All right. I believe in you. Believe in yourself. God bless. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Tiffany.
Thank you for joining us today. Please don't forget to subscribe so we can share this message. We are a worldwide podcast with guests all around the world, and we want to continue to grow this community. You can find us on socials. You could also be a guest. Look for that link below if you'd be interested in being a guest on the podcast. If you know a sponsor or would like to be a sponsor, please reach out to me or Catherine as well.
Sure. We want you all on this journey. We want to hear your stories. We want to share your stories. We want to gain strength from each other because together we're stronger. And we'll never forget the blessing of being a mother and what we're creating the future every single day of our lives. So get on this train with us and let's do this thing, moms.
I believe in you. Believe in yourself. God bless. And we'll see you around. Take care.